Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, I thought I'd give you an inside view of my 14-inch HP laptop that I won recently from MDG Computers. And yes, it's in pieces, sort of. Anyways, some people like these videos, and I totally see why. You know, I mean, I like them too because I get to learn how to take apart stuff I've never done before too. Although there was nothing on this one, so it was kind of like, this is going to be interesting. Now, I've been a tech since 1990, which also gives me an advantage. I was able to get the teardown schematics for this thing too. Because without being a tech, you're not getting them. But I did get one boo-boo from HP, and that was on the RAM speed. They have a few different versions of the same laptop. So I asked them about, well, what's the RAM speed of this thing? You know, I was trying to dig up some information that at the time I didn't know how to find, and it is a new computer, right? So something I haven't worked on before. Anyway, so he told me that, you know, the RAM speed was like 2660 or 2666, something ridiculous like that. Anyways, turns out it is 3200 megahertz, and I'm going to show you how to find that out in a minute. So this thing has 2 RAM slots in it. There is no onboard soldered RAM, okay? So you will have 2 slots in this one. Now, this goes according to actual model number, okay, of the computer. And there's some little variances in model numbers I found of the same laptop. And it's kind of like, interesting. Now, a lot of that could be configuration from the factory. I have no idea how HP does their stuff. Apple's a little different, you know. Anyhow, so we've got a RAM slot here. This one is empty right now because the RAM I ordered, which was supposed to be the right one, though the computer will run with mix match speed, you're not going to get access to all your Windows 10 updates when you mix match speed. Found that out. Especially the newest version of Windows is so picky. A lot of blue screens of death are going to happen. Memory errors. Yep, the computer in the BIOS says 12 gigs of RAM. Yes, it recognizes you've got 12, but it doesn't bark at the speed of the RAM in the BIOS, which you would think it should. And the BIOS doesn't exactly tell you the speed of the RAM anyways, especially if you're dealing with the factory BIOS. I've not been back into the BIOS since the new update that came down for it, which is a really new update. Anyways, so this thing came originally with a 120 gig SSD. Now this is the dual key drive, so this is a standard SSD stick style thingy with the B and an M connector. This laptop actually supports both SSD and NVMe. NVMe is much faster, so I ordered an NVMe stick, slam in, away you go. And it's keyed normally for an NVMe. So I don't know why they just didn't go NVMe, other than maybe price is a difference. But anyways, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown on this. Now, unless you are a tech, you're not getting access to the teardown manuals from HP. They will not hand it out. So I'm a tech. They were able to hand it out to me. Not a problem. Really helped me to get this thing apart. One of the first things I noticed as I'm taking this apart is all the screws are different. The diameter of the threads are different on these 2 screws compared to these back 3. You've got this one that looks pretty much identical to the other 2, but then you got these 2 little shorties, and I'm going to show you all that stuff in a second, where they actually go. So if you're going to take this thing apart yourself, you need to know this stuff, because yeah, you got to put it back together properly. Anyway, so I sent that RAM back to Amazon, no problems, it's the wrong RAM. I'm going to have to order new RAM in. 4 gigs is not enough RAM. Windows 10, especially the new version that's out, actually swallows 3 gigabytes of your RAM. So if you have only a 4 gigabyte machine, yeah, you got 1 gig to run programs with. That bottlenecks the system and slows you down. Okay, although the system does still run quite quickly because the drive helps out a lot. Yeah, it's still going to have some buggy issues. I found with 12 gigs of RAM in it, even though it was mix matched, everything flew really nice. So I actually want to get at least between 8 to 12 in it. The other thing that I had asked HP on the phone about this particular laptop was the maximum RAM. They told me 16 gigs. Turns out it's 32 gigs. Again, we'll go through that. So that's how things go. Now, if you're going to do this yourself, okay, just be aware you will void your warranty unless you're a technician. Okay, so be very, very careful prying the back lid off. And I'm going to show you the tool that you're going to need to do that with too. But once you pop it off, you don't have to disconnect the battery. The service manual says yes we do, but I've yet to ever disconnect a battery when I'm just doing a RAM and a hard drive thing. The only time I'll disconnect a battery is if I'm getting more serious involved into strip downs, then I'll take the battery out. But for a simple RAM and hard drive, I never take the battery out. There's no need for it. You know, just make sure your power is turned off before you do anything, or you will blow stuff up. Okay, so keep that in mind, which is another reason why they tell you to remove the battery, just in case for some reason you accidentally turn the power on somehow. Anyways, so let's flip this over. Now, this is the back cover, and you'll have a rubber strip here that's a narrow rubber strip. This is the front of the cover. This is the back side. It uses the taller rubber strip. You're going to need a flat blade, very fine flat blade jeweler's screwdriver to pry up along the edge, lift it just a little bit, and carefully pull and get those things off there. Now, I've actually stuck mine onto my tape deck over here to my left so that they can hang there and not get full of dust and stuff. The one major tool you're going to need, preferably two if you've got them, I do, is this little guy. Okay, these come in kits with iPhones, or you can buy them as separate tools, whatever. You will need that. You're going to have to pry back here and lift the back cover clips first, and then you can flip things over, open up the lid, and then carefully pry at the sides in order to get everything carefully apart. There are a lot of clips holding this thing together, and it can be a little scary, but as long as you're very careful and cautious at what you're doing and you take your time, you don't just rip into stuff, you won't cause any damage. So let's fire this little puppy up. I'm just going to run it on battery power for now, just because it's least amount of hassle. And I got to type in my password, so this is where you guys get a blank screen for a second. Okay. And you're back. Alright, so we're signed in. Even with 4 gigs of RAM, this thing's pretty snappy. And the Wi-Fi card on 5 gigahertz is good for 150 megabits per second top end. You can use third-party Wi-Fi adapters, which I highly recommend if you want more speed. If you're only connected to a 2.4 gigahertz connection, your speed is basically cut in half. Okay, that's how it works. Anyhow, and of course, a lot of your speed also depends on your incoming signal to your router or internet provider, whatever, okay? How fast things will actually move. Now, this is the program for the laptop, and if you go to Troubleshooting and Fixes under Storage, you're going to find out what you've got for a hard drive, okay? This is full diagnostics. This is actually a more up-to-date program than the one that came with the original hard drive, with the original Windows OS. Okay, so it's kind of like, wow, this is definitely giving us info. Storage, main specs. Now, under main specs, it tells us we have 4 gigabytes of RAM. It's made by Micron. It's 3200 megahertz. If you mix and match your RAM, you will not get all your Windows 10 updates, especially that final update that now gives you this weather thing down below. Microsoft lists that update as being an optional update in the list, but when you go and get info on it, it's actually a mandatory update. Because what I found happened was, until I got that update in there, if I was to go to the search bar, for example, and type in Device Manager, okay, yeah, it's there, but it would be ghosted. Now it's not ghosted, so now I can just hit enter, and voila, I can get in. Similar problem happened with my power savings area. I could go into it, and then as soon as I click on any of the choices on the left column, it would lock me out, and now I'm no longer locked out. And I go into the power savings area because I don't believe I'm saving on battery power, and I also want my processor to running at its maximum speed. So you have a minimum speed of this computer, and then you have the maximum. So the minimum is 1.2 gigahertz. It's a dual-core i3, apparently 10th generation. with an overclock of 3.4 gigahertz, if I remember correctly. So the way I set up my minimum and my maximum processor management state is at 100% battery, 100% on the computer on all areas. I want everything at 100%. So this way, I'm not running 1.2 gigahertz. I'm actually running over 3 gigahertz. And it's lots faster. Trust me, it's fantastic. And no, you're not going to burn out your computer primarily by running everything full tilt all the time. Never happened. Not to me ever. And I even run my PC, my big computer, full tilt all the time. Also tells you what version of Windows you're running. This is the build 1904 3.1052. So we get to find that out as well. Under Troubleshooting and Fixes, okay, we can go through here and we can access different things that we may have some issues about and find out how to fix them. So operating system troubleshooting, if we click on that, it'll give us a redirect. It's going to take us to a different area of stuff. This is a virtual agent here, but I don't want the virtual agent. That's not what I'm after. Not after that. So let's go back into here. What is your problem solved? No, because we don't have one. All right. Updates. This is another area where it's going to go through updates. Now I don't have any updates to do. They're all done. But this is where you get updates for like your BIOS and your sound and all that stuff for your motherboard. I recommend definitely checking this. Even though the new version of Windows will put in a lot of HP stuff for you, you're still going to have to go and re-download this program, which is the support assistant, and I would still run it and check for any of your updates that have not yet been put in. So definitely check your updates, because there's usually a couple of them. Okay, you can have it automatically scan, that sort of stuff, that sort of thing. But I love how much HP gives us here for information on our computer, because HP has made the same computer in just little minor changes to the model number, which made a difference between that slower RAM and this one being the faster RAM. Now, this is 3200 megahertz RAM. Like I said, you can't mix and match speeds or you're going to have issues. You also cannot run anything slower than 3200 megahertz or you're going to have you're going to have issues. And you can't run faster than 3200 megahertz or you're going to have issues. No, there's a can and can't to this, right? Yes, you can do whatever you want, and yes, the computer is going to say this is what you have, because it'll recognize it, but you're going to have a lot of crash problems, and you may or may not get updates, which I found out I wasn't getting that final update to straighten out the rest of my computer. Okay, so make sure that alleged update is actually done, because it's definitely not optional. You have to have it, or you're not going to be accessing certain features of your computer. So, but anyways, this is what we have for you for today. Just a basic run through, you know. So just be aware if you are going to order a replacement hard drive, something bigger, because 120 gig, over half of that is gone just from Windows 10. You know, it's ridiculous. It's like, and I told HP, I says, why are you guys still putting in this kind of a crummy configuration? Like, seriously, you know, because Windows 10 is definitely going to swallow this, and it does. 3 gigs worth of it for the RAM alone, and then of course you've got over half your hard drive launched just from Windows 10 by the time it's fully up to date, and you've got, you know, got that going. And also, this is a slower drive. This is a standard SSD stick, where I put in an NVMe stick, which is literally about 4 to 5 times faster than this one. But I also went 500 gigabyte. You go as big as you want for hard drive size that you can find in an NVMe, but for a computer of this performance level for processor, I don't see any reason to go anything beyond a 500 gig hard drive, and probably not beyond 8 to 16 gigs tops of RAM. I haven't decided if I'm going to go with 8 gigs, which would definitely give me 5 gigs for programs, which would be quite adequate, or I may go after 16 gig upgrade. Definitely not going to go 32 gigs, and this does max at 32 gigs of RAM, which really shocked me. And it does tell you in that program that it goes to 32 gigs. So, all that being said and done, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I have to go find some RAM now. Yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but in case I already did, I'll do it again. Screws are different, okay? Be very wary about these screws. The way I have them laid out is the exact same way they go back in. Okay, so the 3 blacks here, these 2 middle ones you pulled out go here. This one here goes onto the middle strip, and these 2 go on the ends at the front. Okay, so make sure you put them in that specific order on a piece of paper or somewhere where they're not going to get bumped or knocked when you're working on this thing. Very important, okay? Because we do have also different thread diameter between here and here, even though these are virtually about the same height, okay? They are different screws, and these are definitely different little guys, okay? Now, as far as the tool, get yourself that pry tool. As far as the screwdriver goes for working with the hard drive, find something like this. You can get these kits online on Amazon for like next to nothing. Probably 2 pry tools would work the best. I actually used this pry tool and I used the back end of this one. So this way I could hold up the lip so I could get to the next edge over. And once I popped a few clips, I just used that for the rest of it. But plastic tools, and don't dig in too deep either. Okay? And like I said, don't be rough with it when you pull it apart. But this is going to be handy for this because it's a proper fit. Okay? Very important because you can mess up the top end of that Phillips head real quick if you're not careful. And when you screw this back down, by the way, you do have to actually, you'll find that this will stick way up. You actually have to push it down and hold it. And so as you're holding it in place, this is the tricky part. Get your screw in there and kind of pinch it to your finger and get it to go in there. So when you're putting this back in, just go until it snugs up on its own and just a barely little bit of extra tension. That's it. Don't reef on that or you'll bust stuff. Okay? That wouldn't be cool. So there you go. And like I said, you don't have to remove the battery. Just make sure the power is off, then you can remove your drive and install more RAM or remove it, whatever you're doing in that area only. If you're going any further in depth into this thing other than RAM and hard drive, disconnect the battery. Very, very important at that point. Okay? So, that's it. That's all. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And by the way, the review will come out eventually. I just got to get some more RAM for this. It's proper RAM this time. Thank you, by the way, HP Support Assistant, for actually giving me better information than I got right from the company. Because now I know a lot more about this thing that I did not even get on the phone. And, of course, the teardown schematic and manual for this thing has some unclear sections as well, so even that wasn't 100%. So, Support Assistant program worked much better, which is pretty sad, actually. But anyways, thanks again. See you in the next one.